Hello and welcome to my latest weekly video news from Madison's. Well, I've returned from a 2-week break and I thought you might quite like to hear what's going on in the property world at the moment. So August would traditionally be a quieter selling season. Families put on hold their property purchase decisions. They go on holiday, they relax, they have a lovely time. They're preoccupied with their children who are not at school. So August traditionally a very quieter period. But for the last 2 years, that has not happened. The pandemic and the continued re-evaluation of home has meant that everybody has kept searching whatever the time of year. And of course, with the staycation and people not being able to go on holiday, they have more time on their hands over August to do that. Well, August this month, Rightmove reported a drop in prices of property coming to the market at 1.3%. So the first drop that's been seen for quite a while. And that's probably quite normal for an August selling season. You would expect prices to be a little bit tempered down because there's just not so much demand. So very, very normal. That's exactly where it should be on a 10-year average, and nothing to worry about in terms of a price correction happening in the market. We continue to think that although price growth will cool, there's certainly not a crash coming despite those negative news headlines that we hear about. So demand still there. Interestingly, in some seaside towns, they have reported an enormous drop in buyer demand. So with the pandemic and the rise in the staycation, many popular tourist resorts got the attention of investor buyers who understood they could buy a cracking little property and let it out for great, great returns. But that was really bad for those local communities where you would have properties that would sit empty for 70-80% of the year, and also first-time buyers and people on lower incomes being unable to get themselves on the property ladder. So the government introduced the right for local councils to double and even quadruple council tax payments if a property could not show that it had been occupied by more than a certain amount of time each year. So that has had a big impact. Those investor buyers have retracted from that market and demand is down. I mean, in parts of Devon, 64% down. Cromer, very close to where I grew up in Norfolk, down about 34%. Sandwich in Deal, down about 40%. So demand massively dropped in those areas. So does property remain a good investment for an investor? Certainly those holiday towns, you've got to factor in those extra prices, and equally it's nice to have a community, isn't it? I grew up near Cromer and it was very much a well supported area, attracted tourism but certainly still had a vibrant community out of those heady tourist seasons. But of course with mortgage rates rising and people actually seeing better returns on their cash deposits, indeed of course the Bank of England, just before I went away, increased base rate again by the highest rate for 27 years. So huge increase in an attempt to control inflation. So if you're paying more money for your mortgage and you could get more money by just sitting on a deposit account, does property remain a good investment? Well, of course, it depends as ever what your objectives are, what you want to achieve. I just think you need to be really careful. You need to know your area. Speak to a local agent and get expert knowledge on what will give you a great yield. Your yield is your income that you get from a buy-to-let property. And also you might want to get some capital growth as well. So speak to an agent, get great research, understand the true costs of what you could be purchasing, look at the service charge costs, look at your debt costs and weigh all that up. And there's no doubt that buy-to-let in property investment, which has been the most strongest performing asset class over the last 10 years. Of course, things can go up as well as down, and I'm not authorised to give advice on investments anymore. But it has been a really strong performing asset, and I still think there's a place for it in many people's portfolio if it's right for them. One of the things that's happening though at the moment, definitely in the market, is the time to exchange. Oh, it's taking forever. So traditionally, it would take about 8 to 10 weeks to get from offer to exchange of contracts. And at the moment, the average has pushed up to 17 weeks, which is just hideous, actually. Hideous, hideous. There is a direct correlation between the amount of time between getting from offer to exchange and the fall through rate. So the more time that goes on, the higher the probability that the sale will collapse. Can be for a variety of things: change of circumstances, cold feet, seeing something else that catches your eye, lack of communication from your agent, so feeling this deal will never go through, losing faith in your buyer, in the chain, all sorts of things. So you want to get across the line as quickly as possible. And one of the real problems the market has at the moment, of course, is rising mortgage rates. We have lots of deals where we have a hard deadline set. If that deadline is missed, that deal cannot go through, because people are going back to their broker, their mortgage that they've got offered will expire. They're going back to their broker and say, well, what it costs me now to borrow it, and with rates over doubling, they simply can't afford that mortgage. So yeah, a lot of real pressure. Solicitors remain stacked out, the lenders are stacked out because everyone's rebroking their mortgage, surveyors are busy. So it's just a perfect storm of events at the moment. So yeah, that's my biggest headache, I would say, at the moment. Not stock levels, which I know for many other agents is an issue. We have really good stock levels here, really good turnover of properties coming to market. But for me, getting it over the line is my biggest headache. So yeah, that's the sum up of the market and where it's at the moment. Well, of course, it's local and live this weekend here in Tunbridge Wells. It's become a regular event now for a good number of years. Fabulous event, Calverley Park. Do head to the website for full details. It will run from the 26th to the 29th of August, right over that bank holiday weekend. And there'll be groups there like the Noble Jacks, Sun Charmer and Dull Knife. I have heard of 2 of those, I think. I'm just far too old. Anyway, do get out. I hope the weather stays nice for it. Aren't we all praying for that after this wonderful summer we've had? Lovely to be back, and I look forward to speaking to you next week. Bye-bye.